Hiya, folks. Don't forget, my podcast is up. I'll leave links below. Listen to that podcast. It's good. Episode 2 will be up next week. If you're a Patreon supporter, you already got episode 2, so thank you, Patreon supporters. I am going on a retreat. I'm going to be picked up in about half an hour, and then I'm going to go on a retreat for this weekend. It's too late to sign up, so don't sign up, but we already got... we're over capacity right now, so that's kind of interesting. That hasn't happened for a long time. I advertised this as a retreat about Menju, face-to-face transmission, and I'm going to cover that topic, but I got a question on this very video blog, and I wanted to answer that, and in answering it for myself, I kind of decided I'm going to talk about that at the retreat. So if you're coming on the retreat, you shouldn't be watching this video, but if you're coming on the retreat, you'll hear me talk about this stuff, and maybe a little bit less about Menju than I said I was going to. A question. Since before your sun burned hot in the sky and before your race was born, I have awaited a question. And the question was this. Somebody pointed out this line in Shobogenzo, Arousing the Aspiration for Enlightenment. And I'm using the Kaz Tanahashi version because that is what the question was based on. I'd been talking about... what was I talking about? Enlightenment and how the beginners, the Shoshin, it's part of my podcast. So the first episode of the podcast is about Shoshin, which is beginner's mind, and I'd been talking about that. And the person who asked the question pointed out this line. If you compare unsurpassable complete enlightenment with the beginner's aspiration for enlightenment, it is like comparing a blaze that destroys the world with the blinking of a firefly. And so the person wanted to know if what I said about enlightenment jibed with that. And I actually wasn't... I've read this phrase, of course, before, but it wasn't in my memory banks at the time, so I asked him where it came from, and that's where it came from. What's interesting is the line that follows. So I'm going to read both lines, because I think the questioner might have missed the second line. If you compare unsurpassable complete enlightenment with the beginner's aspiration for enlightenment, it is like comparing a blaze that destroys the world with the blinking of a firefly. Now here comes the next line. Yet, if you arouse the intention of awakening others first, these two are indistinguishable. And Tanahashi puts indistinguishable in... what do you call that? Italics. Here's the same line from my teacher's translation of Shobogenzo. If we compare the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, which is unsurpassed complete perfect enlightenment, and the first establishment of the Bodhi mind, they may be like the Holocaust at the end of a kalpa and the fire of a firefly. At the same time, if we establish the will to deliver others before we ourselves attain deliverance, the two are without separation. And the two are without separation is also in italics there. And the reason that those phrases are in italics is because they refer back to a poem that Dogen has just quoted. Bodhisattva Mahakashapa praises Shakyamuni Buddha in verse, saying, establishing the mind and the ultimate state, the two are without separation. Of these two states of mind, the former mind is harder to realize. It is to deliver others before attaining one's own deliverance. For this reason, I bow to your first establishment of the mind. With the first establishment, already the teacher of gods and men, you rose above Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. Such establishment of the mind surpasses the triple world, therefore we are able to call it the supreme. So I think you can see there that even though we do have this phrase saying that the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, complete perfect enlightenment, is like the fire that destroys the universe compared to a blinking of a lightning bug. That's what we used to call them back in Ohio. There's very strong praise for establishing the will to the truth, as Nishijima Roshi called it, or what do they call it? Arousing the aspiration to enlightenment, I think is what San Francisco Zen Center prefers. There is this very, very strong praise of beginner's mind as being the harder one, and the easier one, I suppose, by comparison, would be Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, complete, perfect, unsurpassed enlightenment. And this whole chapter, Hotsu Bodai Shin, Establishment of the Bodhi Mind, is how Nishijima Roshi and Mike Cross translated it, is all about that, establishing the will to the truth, as Nishijima called it, or the Bodhi mind, the aspiration for enlightenment. In other words, the first time that you just get interested in even pursuing practice. That's what they're talking about. I mean, you can give it these highfalutin names like Bodhi mind and will to the truth and aspiration for enlightenment, but it's basically just the gumption, or whatever you call it, to just sit your ass on a cushion and do some gosh darn meditation and work on yourself. That's what they're saying is hard to do, and that's what they are praising very highly in this chapter. And when I say they, I mean Dogen. Sorry, I'm doing this quickly. So here's the beginning of that chapter, and I think it's real interesting. I'm going to read from the Nishijima Cross version. In general, there are three kinds of mind. The first, citta, is here called thinking mind. The second, hridaya, is here called the mind of grasses and trees, which he translates as the instinctive process that exists in the life force. That's in the footnote that Nishijima Roshi and Cross gave. The third, hridaya, is here called experienced and concentrated mind. Among these, the Bodhi mind, that's the aspiration for enlightenment, or just the gumption to sit your ass on a cushion, is inevitably established relying upon thinking mind. And this part I like, and it's the part I want to just talk about in this video, so we'll limit it to that. Thinking mind is how you establish Bodhi mind. So you have to kind of think, I think I need some of this meditation stuff in my life. And then you get down to it. So I think that's really interesting, because often thinking mind is derided among people who practice meditation as being, we got to get rid of the thinking mind. But it's the thinking mind that gets you to do the meditation in the first place. And that's what I want to talk about this weekend at the retreat. And maybe when I come back, I'll have some more to say about it on the video channel, or maybe I won't. I don't know. But that's my little speech there, and kind of an answer to the question that someone asked in the comments below. I always read your comments. I don't respond to all of them, because I often don't have time to respond to all of them. And some of them don't even require a response, but I always read them. So please leave a comment, leave a like, that's nice, and subscribe. Also, my donations, PayPal and Patreon, are below. I'm going on this retreat, and this is one of the retreats that I don't get paid for. So your donations are always significant to me. I really appreciate that. And see you after the retreat. Bye.